Very few students only have joined. Only 77 are there. 78 to 9. Okay, let us start. The last class started with autoencoders. So I will continue with that. So basically this autoencoder is a kind of an unsupervised learning mechanism. So here only the input data will be given and the network will be allowed to learn on its own. So in the process of learning on its own, depending on the type of data that is being fed into the network, it will start understanding and it tries to perform the operations, whether it has to uh, remove the noise or anomaly detection or whatever. So here, this is the architecture. Just a second. So here it has the input data given. It can be of a grayscale image or an RGB image. And then you have the CNN type of layers, and this we will not call exactly as a CNN kind of layers. We will have set of layers where it performs the feature extraction, some operation similar to the CNN, but we will not call it as exactly as deep neural networks. Here, this is a kind of a deep belief network wherein the architecture is somewhat different than the deep neural network. Okay, and then once when the feature extraction is done, it goes into a latent space representation where the data is compressed, and then from the compressed, once again the original data will be recovered and then it is reconstructed into the original image. So this is how it works, and based on this basic operation, types of autoencoders are categorized, and what each autoencoder will do, that is what we are going to discuss. So this applications we have already seen in the last class. So it can perform the noise removal and then watermarking removal, anomaly removal. So if you give an image like this, start extracting the features, and then wherever there is an anomaly that will be detected. Similarly, image coloring. So on this applications we have discussed in the last class and we have stopped up to this. So now we'll continue here. So this autoencode is basically an unsupervised learning model. So what happens is when you have a ANN model, it is actually uh, trained with the same model. That means your input and then the output is going to be the same. So if your input and output are same, then why we need to use a neural network model? That question will naturally arise, isn't it? If it is mentioned here, if the input and output are same, the model will try to reconstruct the input. These models are called autoencoders. So when the input and output are same, why we are doing in such a manner? So do you remember the content addressable or an associative memory that I hinted in the last class? If you give a particular set of input data and then store it in the memory, later you want to retrieve some data, if you give only a small portion of it or with some missing element or missed or mistaken element, then what happens is it tries to match the rest of the bits or rest of the data with the elements that are already stored, and then it will try to retrieve the entire data. Okay, so that is what an associative memory is, or you can call it as content addressable memory. So this autoencoder also works similar to that. Okay. So in the process of learning to the input itself, that means when you give an input data, the neural network makes sure that it learns the input properly so that it again gives the same input as the output. That means given an input, the output is the same. And in this process, if there is any loss function, that is to be noted. What is the loss function? Okay. So this we call it as an identity transform. That means the input and the output are same. So this is identity transform. Your X is the input image, and then f of x is the output image, and the output image is a function of the input image. That means both are same. So in this process, what happens is, if there is any noise in the data, then the noise will be suppressed, and only the original content of the image should be reproduced or represented as the output image. So this autoencoder has 4 parts. I will discuss the slide elements later. We will see the diagram, then we'll go to the slide. So here, this autoencoder has an encoder component, a bottleneck component, and a decoder component, and then a loss component. So the encoder is the one which performs the feature extraction and tries to put the compressed version of the image or the data that is being retrieved from the original data. Okay, and that goes to a bottleneck. This bottleneck is also called as a coder, from where the information will be again reconstructed. Okay, and then the reconstructed input will be given as the output. So these are the components. You will have an encoder, a code, and then a decoder, and then the location. So the encoder will have multiple layers, similar to a deep neural network. Here also you will have multiple layers and downsampling happens. So here also the learning happens using several filters. Different portions of the image will be used for learning, and then different filter extract different portions of the input data or the image, and then it is being compressed and then stored here. Okay, a data compression happens here. Fine, because only the relevant information are being retrieved and stored here. So what happens is, if there is any noise, irrelevant data, or the, if you say the anomaly data which is not in line with the other major part of the data, those gets removed, or those features are not extracted. Say the watermarking part of the image, those are not synchronizing with the main component of the, so those will not be retrieved or extracted during this encoding part, and they will not go into the code part. So this code part is actually the bottleneck layer, and this bottleneck layer has a separate name for it. I will explain that. That is called as a latent space representation. Means the entire information is compressed and stored in the form of a latent space. That latent space representation has a different kind of a storage depending on the data. If it is a image, it will have a different type of storage. If it is a text, then it will have a different types of storage. We usually call it as a word embedding or image embedding. So usually in this code or bottleneck layer, the embeddings of the image will be stored. So basically the embeddings have the elements which are closely related. If you take the Euclidean distance or any distance measure, then they will be closely related. So only that part of the information will be in this code, and later the decoder, it performs the inverse or transpose operation of decoder and recovers the original image. Okay. So in this process, there will be some loss that is happening. So there will be two types of loss, mean squared error and mean absolute error, L1 loss and L2 loss. So now I will explain once again the component: encoder, bottleneck, decoder, and then the last part. So the encoder learns how to reduce the input dimension and compress the input data into an encoded representation that is called latent space representation. And the word embeddings or the image embeddings will be present in this part. And then you have the code. So this is the layer that contains the compressed representation, and this is the minimum size of the input data. This has the minimum compressed version of the input data, and decoder will reconstruct from the encoder part which has been stored in the code. So basically this is a lossy compression. That means you will not get the original size as it is. Size in a sense, the original data will not be there as it is. Some loss will happen because that loss is inherent. I think you know about JPEG or MPEG kind of image or a video techniques. So in that there will be some loss. So what will be the loss? Some part of the information in the image or video will not be uh, present in your final output once when you compress. Okay, so that is called as a lossy compression. So always this autoencoder performs a lossy compression only. So that loss is actually called as the reconstruction loss, and the training involves propagation to minimize the network loss. So the layer between encoder and decoder or the code is known as the bottleneck, and this bottleneck is the part. It tries to balance your encoder part and the decoder part. So this has to maintain the compactness of the data, and also it tries to performs the compression of the data and gives only the relevant required part of the data to the decoder of it. So there are few properties of the autoencoders. They are data specific. That means they can compress the data only on the data in which it is trained upon. Okay, suppose if it is trained on images, then only for a kind of images it can get trained. It always gives a lossy output. That means the output is always a degraded version, and it learns automatically from the examples. That means you have to train several set of sample data, and from maybe volumes of sample data only it tries to learns, and then the compression. So what happens in compression is, from the knowledge that it is gaining from looking at several input images, it understands the fact that which data is repeating often and which data is not repeating, or which pattern of the data is not repeating, or which happens here and there. So such type of pattern in the input it considers as noisy, or watermarking image, or something which is unwanted or irrelevant in the entire input pattern, and then it don't carries it forward to the coder. So those uh, set of pattern of data which is not repeating or which is rarely seen. So those type of data will be compressed. Compressed in a sense, suppressed. Okay. So that is what it actually means. So there are certain hyperparameter autoencoders. So here the code size is a hyperparameter. So here you have an input layer, hidden layer, and the output layer. And there can be multiple input layer. Here if you see in this image, there are 3 hidden layers shown. And all the hidden layers are part of the encoder. And the code is only a single layer. That is the bottleneck. And then the decoder is actually the output part. Okay, the output layer, the coder and then output are connected through the decoder. Here once again you have multiple layers that are hidden, and finally they are connected to the output. So these are the parameters or the hyperparameters that can be varied. So the number of nodes in each layer you can vary, and then these number of layers also you can vary, and then the loss function, whether you want to use mean squared error or binary cross entropy, those things you can change. So the different types of autoencoders, let us discuss. Basically the purpose of autoencoder is the same. It has to perform some kind of a compression. So depending on how the connections are made and what type of data it is going to perform the compression or the encoding and decoding, the types will vary. Okay. The first one is the convolution autoencoder. So the architecture is similar to a convolution neural network, but you will have the coder where you have the flattening and fully connected everything, but then you will have a reshape module here, that is the coder, that actually performs the, and then it does the deconvolution, and then you get the deconvoluted output. So here sometimes what happens is you will get an output which can be a blurred one or it can be a sharp one. So depending on the loss, it can be a blurred or it can be a sharpened image. Okay. If your image is having noise and if you are trying to remove the noise, then you will get a sharpened image. Suppose if your image doesn't have a noise, try to perform a blurring, then what happens is the image will become smoothened and it will become blurred. So it depends on your input data. The next one is sparse autoencoder, where you will not have a connection for every you in the hidden layer. The connection is sparse. That means all the layers are not connected to every other layer. It is very sparse. So you will actually find a difference between neural network and a deep belief network here. That means they are different in terms of the connections, in terms of architecture. Okay. So this is one kind of an autoencoder where the number of nodes, you may have the nodes, but they will not be connected. Wherever or whenever it is required, they can be connected. Otherwise, they need not be connected. You can remove this also. And then this deep autoencoder. So this is an extension of a simple autoencoder. So here, if you see the image given, first hidden layer, the edges will be extracted. In the second hidden layer, the contours or the curvatures kind of a portion of the object will be extracted, and in the third, the object parts, that means overall a bigger area will be covered. This has happens in the left hand side, I mean in the encoder part, and we call this as a deep belief network in the way that it is different from a deep neural network. That means all the uh, uh, in case of deep neural network that means a convolution neural network also, it is basically a sparse connection only, and in this also it is sparse, but how they are is different from a deep neural network. Okay, so the first 4 or 5, they are shallow layers. They are shallow, that means they are not deep. Okay, and then they represents the encoding part, and the second set of 4 or 5 layers make up the decoding part. So actually they perform data compression here, and then the contractive encoders, basically what it does is um, this actually helps to encode an unlabeled training data. So what it does is, if it depends on the error. If your error is of, if you look at the gradient descent, if the error is having a larger number, or if it is having a larger derivative, then depending on a small change in the error function or the parameter, the output may vary exponentially. So for such type of data, we can use this contractive autoencoders. The next one is an LSTM autoencoder. So this is similar to LSTM sequence to sequence prediction, what we have seen in the earlier class. So this we call it as sequence to sequence or prediction problems. So what we'll do is, depending on the uh, data in which it is given, suppose if a big sentence is given, all the part of the sentence or the words are not stored, only some part of the words can be stored, and later it can be recovered or formed a sentence. So that is how it works. And I will after finishing another few couple of slides, I will show the LSTM only in detail from the Jason Brownlee textbook. I will anyway show from the textbook. So we have come to the end of this topic. So the application of this encoder decoder LSTM is in translation, and then image captioning, and then generating answers to textual questions. That means, suppose I think you know about the variational autoencoders or GANs. So something similar to that. I think there is a software, or some students do the, like, when you show an image, and if you ask a child what are the parts or what are the objects seen in an image, in a scenery, if there is a light or a fan or a sofa, you give the image, and you are asking the child to tell what are the objects that you are seeing in the image, then it has to utter the word sofa, light, fan, etc. So in that case, it has to see the object, understand what object it is, and it has to utter the word. So for training such objects present in a scene, okay. So from the objects, from the image, the different objects seen in the particular image has to be recognized, extracted and then recognized, and then those extracted objects has to be labeled. That means it has to match with the data set, and then that knowledge has to go to the your machine, or in the child it learn, and then when a question is asked or when a query is asked, what is this yellow color object, what is this violet color object, so in that case, along with the object name, the color information, shape information, the size information also should be associated to that. Suppose if you have three objects, say three sofas of different colors, different sizes, then if you ask yellow color sofa or green color sofa, then it has to identify, say small one or bigger one or a medium one, then also it has to identify. So in such scenarios, these will be useful. The next slide will give only the link part. So the slide part we have done. So I will sharing the slide and then I will open the textbook. And also I will share the links that I have used. So this is the textbook, chapter 9 from the book Jason Brownlee. I recommend you to read this part from this book. So how to develop an encoder decoder LSTM. So this is basically an auto encoder only. So this chapter you can go through. So it discusses about the architecture, sequence to sequence prediction. So the encoder model, decoder model, and layer, the applications, and then the implementation with some code is given. So we call this as a vanilla LSTM because it uses a gradient called vanilla gradient descent method. And it can be directly implemented in Keras, and some statements related to the Keras will be shown here. So the addition prediction problem, in case if you are given a pattern 1 comma 0 plus 6, then the output actually it is not, it is if the input 10 plus 6 is given, then the output is 16, and that 16 is actually concatenated version. So if it gives 1 and 6, you have to assume this as 16. It is actually concatenated. So how the individual, so the 10 if you give, the 10 also is passed. 1 goes separately, 0 goes separately. So this is how the many prediction model works. So if you give 1 0, then there is a symbol. So what is preceding the symbol is a set of elements belonging to the same number. Similarly, what is following after the symbol. Now here it is only one digit. Suppose if there is one digit, then all these are taken as a single number, but then it has to be parsed and then it goes, then the operation happens and it gives like this. So I think you are studying all this in your NLP or other course. So this is the sequence pipeline and a portion of the code is being given here. So integer to padding strings and then some programs are given. You can go through that integer encoded sequence. Since you know the Python and then the Keras part of it, you can go through this. So making prediction and some examples are there. Maybe what I suggest you is you can take up these programs. You can just copy paste these programs into your Jupyter Notebook or Python IDE, and then you can run it and see. You will know how it works. And also I will show the link. So this is one link which explains you the variational autoencoders. So this variational autoencoder is also one kind of a autoencoder. And then this from the Brownlee author of this LSTM book, he explains the encoder decoder in his point of view here. So the architecture, whatever we have seen in the book, will be given here. The application of encoder decoder, and then the implementation, and then some code. The Keras API part he has given with that summary. So this is the book that I have already shared and I have shown here. So that book. So that's all with this topic. If you have any doubts, we can discuss. I think I have completed little early today. It is only 9:05, 15 minutes ahead I have finished. The recording.